Hi everyone, I'm Jane at Rockin' Worms. Welcome to part 2 of Dancing with the Devil. Tragedy narrowly averted. All of that is not quite as much fun as it sounds. So what do I have? I have a super wet bin that I came across the other night. I made a video about that. I'll link it in the description below. And I need to not only remediate the wet bin, which I'm going to work on more tonight on this video, but also I need to figure out what went wrong so I don't do the same thing again, right? That's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. I don't want to do that. So let's look at the bin and see how it's doing. Okay, so it's actually starting to dry out a little bit. I can tell, I don't know if you can tell on the screen, but it is getting, a little bit more crumbly. Like when I push against some of the clumps, they're breaking up a little bit more. So this is fantastic. This is getting drier, which is what I need to do. So what I'm going to do is dig down a little bit. I've got worms in here. Don't forget, this is a cocoon bin, a nursery bin. So I've got lots of baby hatches in here. Digging down to look at the cardboard that we put on the base. Here's some cocoons. I put on the base of this bin to help absorb the water. So as you can see that the cardboard is definitely damp, and it's damp enough that it's coming apart. And the bottom, the part that's not against the wet bedding, is wet as well. Okay, so what am I going to do? I am going to get a second bin here and put in a new cut to fit dry piece of cardboard because the cardboard on the bottom is working. I want to keep that going. The other thing I'm going to do as I start to move this wet bedding over is I was talking to a worm friend, Anne, and she said that when she had a wet bin, one of the things she did is she cut pieces of cardboard and stood them up in the bin so the wet bedding was against it. And what this did is have these fins, if you will, start absorbing water intermittently amongst the bedding and have another way that moisture is able to wick up and out of the bedding. So I am giving this a try and we'll see how it goes. So you can see all these worms, all these little babies. So I am gonna try to be careful here and put in another fin. I don't know how many I'm going to need. I don't know how they're gonna stand up with the bedding. We're gonna figure this out together because sometimes that's what you got to do. Okay, I'm gonna put that in. I just cut a bunch of pieces, so we'll just keep doing this. When I stop and pause there, I'm actually moving a little wisp out of the way. The cardboard isn't, jammed against the bottom. The wisps are certainly small enough that they can skinny under the cardboard. So I'm not really concerned about, that I'm gonna hurt anybody in here. Okay, how's this going? Oh, look at this one. He's up on the dry cardboard. He is not a happy camper. He was just flipping around. He's like, get me off of here. So I'm gonna help him and just, drop him down there. Okay, so while I continue to take this wet bedding out of the one bin and put it into the new dry bin, let me talk to you about why I think this happened. Basically, what I've come to is I have fundamentally changed my base bedding recipe. I'm using much more cow manure, the third cow manure. I'm using the dried leaves, which is the same as I've done before. And I'm also using the indoor tabletop pre-compost mix that I've just, made. Okay, so why is this mix different than the other mix I was using before, which was mainly shredded cardboard and paper? Okay, the reason being, I think, is the cow manure goes in very dry, and I add, moisture to it. And it basically rehydrates, and sucks up all the moisture it's going to suck up, and then holds on to it, which is actually what I want it to do in a breeder bin. I want the breeder bins to not only be very moist, but also remain moist, so I don't have to go in and mess with them during their 3-week breeding cycle. So the cow manure is actually doing exactly what I want it to. Absorb the initial moisture and then hold on to it. Well, I also think that the pre-compost mixture is doing exactly the same. It is going in moist. In this case, it goes in moist, but it also absorbs all the liquid that I'm putting in when I first make up the bedding, and it basically can't absorb anymore. What this means is that once my cocoons start hatching, I want to put a piece of cardboard here on the end against the plastic. This was actually a suggestion by my cameraman, who might get himself out of the doghouse and end up being re-promoted back to executive producer, if he keeps coming up with brilliant ideas like this. Okay, so I am going to continue this. Okay, so what was I saying? Do you remember?
You were talking about the cow manure and the mixture working the way you wanted it and holding the liquid for the breeders.
Great. So that's right. Thank you. So it works for the breeders, but once the cocoons start hatching and I've got baby worms in here, I want to start feeding them, quote, regular food. Not only just worm chow, but my vegetable scraps from my kitchen. And I freeze those vegetable scraps beforehand because it helps break down the vegetable cell walls, and the worms and the biota can get into the vegetables more quickly and break it down. However, that process of freezing and defrosting releases a lot of moisture. So every time I fed these guys, I was adding more and more moisture into the bin, and the bedding couldn't absorb it, which it couldn't do in the past when I had drier paper and shredded cardboard. Okay, so I just got to the point, I think, in these bins where moisture was just accumulating and not being released back into, the air. I do think that this bin actually was kind of a canary in the coal mine for me. This is the first one that tipped over. I do believe that the other bins would have followed quickly because they're absorbing moisture and not releasing it. So here we go. Here's another, he got a little flung over there. So I could probably, let me see if I can do it this way. Just kind of pull this section back and see if I can slide this cardboard in, because I think Anne suggested that the more cardboard I can get in to do the absorption, the better it'll work, the quicker it'll work. So I have a couple other pieces. I think I'm gonna do one down here. I don't know if the cameraman can get to it. It doesn't have to go all the way to the bottom. Of course, the deeper that the cardboard is down into the bin, the more contact it has with the bedding, the faster it can work. But, you do what you can. Okay. All right. I think this is pretty good. All right. So what do I have to do next? I have to finish cleaning out this bin. I have some cocoons here. I have, lots of worms. So I'm going to have a little work either cleaning this out, or I'll take the lazy way, which I am all about, and simply take this whole section of cardboard, babies, cocoons and all, and put it into one of the sister bins and just let the babies, drop down into that bedding and let everybody settle. And then I can pull off a layer so you can see the inner layer is pretty clean. I can pull off the layer and just leave most of the babies and the cocoons behind. I think that'll just be a lot less work for me and, less stressful on the worms. So I you know what, I'm going to do that. So this is what I wanted to show you, that when your bins go bad, which eventually they will, you can fix them. There's lots of different ways you can approach your problem. There's lots of different information and help on YouTube, just like I'm trying to help here. And just move forward. There's lots of ways to solve your problems. Don't get bogged down on it, okay? So that's it for tonight. I hope you found this informative, and I hope that your bins never go bad. But if they do, remember this video and come back, all right? I am Jane, yours in the dirt. Have a good night.